are having a special episode today. We are waiting on him to join. Oh, there he is. He made it in. He's working on his headset.
He's out. He's got audio issues. The man, the myth, the legend.
Oh, I can hear him.
Yeah, you guys can hear me?
Yep.
Yes,
Can you hear
sir.
us?
Oh, that's awesome. I can hear you guys through my speakers. Am I get like is that any reverb or like anything kicking
No
back?
feedback.
Then
Yep.
forget it.
No, sounds
My
fine.
mic and camera were working, but headphones just weren't. So I don't know what was up with that.
It's
So,
all
Um,
good, brother.
Yeah, we'll welcome in. This is Cobra Stats. Do you prefer to go by Cobra Stats or Connor? Do you want us to call you Cobra or Connor?
Connor's great. Yeah.
Okay. He is a real person. It's not all just made up. Yeah, this is Connor, also known as Cobra Stats on the Twitter space, the man, the myth, the legend. If you follow Purdue Twitter and the Purdue basketball world, I'm sure you've seen him post some of his awesome graphics and some of his breakdowns of some things. Um, really excited to have you on. Really appreciate your time. If there's any point
Yeah.
where you need to jump off here, just let me know. Um, we're gonna try to get into who you are, personally, how you got into this, and some stats stuff. Looking at the IU game a
For
little
sure.
bit, but you can find him at Cobra Stats on X or Twitter, and his website cobrastatistics.com. Um, the, that's the home to the interactive Braden Smith assist tracker, which I absolutely love. Shot charts, so much other stuff on there. But speaking of that, following up on a couple of slower performances from Braden from an assist standpoint, where do we stand with him on the tracker situation? How's it looking? Is he still looking like he's going to break this record?
Yeah, I was just looking at that just before we jumped on too, and I mean his average has been so high throughout the year that kind of the way it's projecting, like he has a very high average. You're right, like he had a few low games, but then he just put up what was it, 12 in the last game,
Yep.
and that was one of those too where I felt like I didn't even like I looked up and I was like, whoa, he's got double digit assists already. Like I wasn't even ready for that. So yeah, I kind of think that I think it's one of those things where you want the assist record because that means other dudes are also making baskets. So
Yeah.
it's like you don't want to you don't want to just put all your eggs in like, oh yeah, let's get a record and who cares about everything else. But it's like, hey, if he gets the record, other guys are making baskets, which means hopefully we're winning games. And so you do kind of root for it in that way, not just for the sake of the record, but for the sake of winning games.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we dive too deep into like Purdue specific stuff,
Yeah.
what's your background in like analytics, data scraping? How did you get here? Did you have experience in other sports? Is this just what you studied and kind of something you love to do as a passion project? What is everything how'd you get into this?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Because it's actually not like my original background. Like I kind of come from like an economics background, and it wasn't even until grad school where I was like really introduced into like kind of the more data background, like especially with economics, and when I was when I was getting my master's in econ, it was I had kind of like a stats focus within that too, and they're like asking me to do all these projects, and half the time it's like projects about like economic data, and I'm like, I don't care about doing like that. Doesn't sound fun. So I was like constantly trying to figure out ways to like make it fun for me, and so I was trying to like always uh, relate it to data in some way that I cared about, specifically sports. Um, and so yeah, like originally what it was like I think kind of like my first real intro to it was like in an econ class, and I was like, what can I do to make this fun? And so rather than looking at like I don't know, like housing markets or like whatever, I looked at betting markets for NCAA basketball because like that's fun. And just from that, like it really like I got really interested in it, and so from there, kind of like once I got out of grad school, I was like, well, uh, I really want to I really want to like go further and learn more and know more. Um, and as I got into that, I was like, well, I gotta like kind of keep myself occupied. Like it's not my job to do sports data. So really starting up like my Twitter with that was just a way for me, it's like selfishly to learn. Um, like I was like, hey, like how can I like continue to learn more about this field but make it fun for myself? And I started posting stuff to keep myself accountable. Truly, like I was more like if I want to learn and I actually want to do stuff, like I gotta like ask for feedback and like stay accountable to people who might be like following along and stuff like that. And so that's actually how it originally started, and then yeah, just kind of went from there.
That's awesome.
Heck yeah, man. I'm Dalton, by the way, co-host here at Double D's. My first question for you is, what inspired your name, Cobra Stats?
Well, that's the funny thing is like it's like nothing about snakes, truly. My name's Connor Bradley, so it's like Connor C-O Bradley B-R-A. So it's actually a nickname, like some friends in high school. They'd call me Cobra. And then Cobra is like such a common word that like you couldn't just grab the handle like at Cobra. So I just like, well, I'm gonna be posting basketball stats, so Cobra Stats. But it's really not any deeper than that. Like if I had to be honest, it's just me, like kind of like trying to be like, you know how Ken Palm shortens his name. I'm like, I guess I'm trying to be that. I don't know. So
That's cool that it lined up like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
The chat is saying your mic level is kind of low. I don't know.
is it?
Yeah, they said you're kind of quiet. I just wanted to let you know.
Check. We good?
Oh yeah, that's great. That is
Cool.
great.
Yeah.
I mean that's wild that your name just lines up to Cobra. Pretty
It
cool.
worked out. It doesn't. I didn't even know there like until like someone said it. I was like, oh dang, that makes sense. Like I'm like, I'll take it. We'll run with it. You know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Yeah, you have built a pretty good following, and obviously a lot of respect through X. A lot of people share your stuff and like what you do. You know, what's been the most surprising part of that process, like growing an account kind of dedicated to niche stats, to basically mostly one team? You know, have you ever had anyone at Purdue, like within the Purdue program, reach out to you asking you to do anything or maybe become part of the team?
So kind of to your first part, kind of like the coolest part of that, like I think for me, like I care way more about Purdue than I care about like just basketball in general. Like that's why I'm cool with it being just like the Purdue segment, because like I enjoy basketball, but I'm not like a John Rothstein junkie where it's like I'm like it's a Tuesday night and I'm watching like 300 plus Ken Palm teams play each other. You know, I truly just like I love Purdue, and so that's why I'm cool with kind of just hanging out there. And I've been surprised at how many people aren't interested in the numbers. Like I think that speaks to Purdue's fan base. There's a lot of people who care about that stuff. Like they're like, this is fascinating, this is interesting. And so that's always been a fun thing, just to see how many people truly care or truly interested. That's been neat. As far as the team, like I know like there's a couple of the assistants that I know that follow me. And so I know they see my stuff. I've interacted a number of times with Chris Foreman, SID. Just there's been a couple times where he's asked me like, "Hey, where'd you get this?" or whatnot. But like, you know, I'm a company man, so I'm always happy to help however I can. So
Cool.
Love that.
yeah.
I'd say with your following, what's been the most rewarding part of being able to share those stats and kind of becoming like Purdue fans' go-to guy for all the statistics? Like, if there's something I want to know, I'm throwing an at Cobra Stats immediately. So I just wonder, you know, what's that process felt like, and you know, being the go-to guy.
I mean, I appreciate that for sure. It has been fun. One of the most rewarding, like I actually, this is like kind of within that realm, kind of not, is like there's a number of times where I'll get like DMs from like people from maybe other schools or like students who are like, hey, I'm trying to learn this. And it's like, it's like cool for them to be like, hey, I respect your stuff. To have that, or to have other people like in the data space, just to be like, hey, like I like your stuff. That's been cool for me, just because there's been a lot where I've been relatively self-taught. So I kind of get in there. I'm like, I truly have no clue what I'm doing half the time, it feels like, which, you know, it is what it is. But so it's neat whenever people say, hey, like I think this looks great. I think you did a great job here. That's really rewarding to me. Sorry, what was that second part of that?
It was just more or less being like, what's it feel like to be the go-to stat guy? Like everyone just tags you all the time. Like I'm guessing that your notifications are probably blown up like all the time.
Yeah, that is truly, it's really neat. Like it's fun to get, you know, like I said, Purdue fans are just awesome. I do appreciate too, because I am like I'm not always super creative, and so whenever people like they'll send me stuff where I'm like, dang, I didn't even think to look into that. And to be able to kind of have the tools to help out to do that, I always appreciate that. I love that. The one thing is whenever sometimes like people reach out and they'll ask me about something, I'm like, dang, you think I'm way smarter or more talented than I truly am. And so I just like, I might have to leave this one on red because I got no clue what to do with it. But it is cool regardless. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I just want to let the chat know real quick. Like we'll get to your guys' questions at the end here. We'll kind of like rapid fire at the end, so we're not ignoring you. We will get to some of those. So I would just like to. You put a new visual out today. First off, it was awesome with the what games AP Top 25 and the week upcoming. That was really cool. And you've put out things like the Fran meter, efficiency charts, lineup charts. Some like on those visuals that you come up with, they're always super unique. Are you just coming up with an idea in your head and you're like, how can I turn this into something that looks cool? And what are you using to scrape some of that data? Like, are you pulling from KenPom and Torvik, or are you manually inputting data? Like, how does that whole process work when you're kind of coming up with that idea?
Yeah. So a lot of times it's just like that. Like sometimes I have people reach out, they say something. I'm like, just kind of like, I think generally just like a curious person where I'm like asking questions, and I just keep a note in my phone where like if I come up with an idea, like I'll just put it in there and I'll be like, I'll revisit this later. And I actually have an Excel sheet that is just like I have a massive list of stuff that like maybe one day I'll get to it. I probably won't, but I got it. And so yeah, like I try to do that. And as far as getting the data, it just kind of depends. One thing that I use a lot, I pull a lot from the NCAA website. So it's stats.ncaa.org, and that's where all the play-by-play comes from. And so I scrape that, pull that in, clean it up a little bit just so it's easy to kind of like manipulate and play with. And so what's really nice about that is whenever you want time-stamped data, so if it's like I want to see, the order in which 3-pointers were taken, not just that like someone went 3 for 6, but like was it 3 straight makes and then 3 straight misses or like whatever. Or if I want to say like, hey, a rolling 5-minute periods, I can use that. So that comes from the NCAA. Bart Torvik is like honestly an incredibly generous person with his data, which is super, super cool. So that's more for like game results and game logs. Like if you want the cumulative data, I also pull that from the NCAA site, but sometimes I don't trust myself. And so I trust Bart a lot more. I don't get a ton from KenPom. Sometimes I'll pull a snapshot of that, but not too often.
Cool. I guess besides Purdue, are there any other teams or aspects of college basketball that you like analyzing more?
I'm like truly like I'm a Purdue guy through and through. Like that's the hard thing is like when I say like I don't care about other teams, like I'm like I actively root against pretty much every other team, it's just one of those things. No, I love Purdue. I enjoy Purdue. Like that's what keeps me interested. For sure. I think Big Ten in general though is really fun just because I think there's so much familiarity between teams. And so I like doing Big Ten stuff for sure. And yeah, so I think that's probably definitely where I try to stick. It's like, I don't like have this desire to have like I don't know, like national appeal or anything. I'm like, I love Purdue. Like I love Purdue people. I'm like, I'm cool with sticking with it. Just cause it's fun. So.
Yeah, I saw you've kind of gone into volleyball lately. Do you plan on doing any other sports or grabbing stats or do you actively now grab stats for other sports?
Yeah. So the volleyball is their stuff is available, but it's harder to get. And it just kind of comes down to how the play-by-play is broken down from the NCAA website. Like it literally will map out every time someone's touching the ball. And that's just like a really hard thing to stay organized with. And there's not a lot of good resources out there in terms of pulling it in. And so I've tried to do that, like some on my own. It's pretty labor intensive. And so I've been working on doing that. There's some guys out there right now actually who do some incredible volleyball stuff, which is really neat just to follow along with. And it truly, if I knew more about volleyball, I would do more for sure. I love Purdue volleyball. I love watching volleyball for sure, but I love Dave Shondell. I got a Dave Shondell volleyball right there actually.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like I'm a huge fan. Yeah, that was actually, it replaced I had a football signed by a former Purdue coach that was there, that I had to, swap out. But
Nice
uh,
replacement.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, like I would love to get into other sports. It all has to do with like availability.
Right.
One of the things about basketball that's cool is like there's only 10 people out there. There's pretty like specific events happening. Like, someone shoots. It's a make or a miss. Like, those types of things. So yeah.
That's cool.
Appreciate that insight.
Yeah.
I quickly wanted to ask you one of the questions we got asked before we even hopped on here, because it's kind of we're talking about other sports and other situations. Like, did you play high school basketball? This is from Blake Widmer. And if so, share a bit of your playing days, position. Have you ever thought about getting into any sort of coaching? What's your background with basketball?
That's a fantastic question. If you all saw me right now, like head to toe, you'd be like, oh yeah, that dude never played basketball. No, I actually don't have a basketball background. I come from a swim background actually, so I actually swam and coached swimming for a number of years. And I think though one of the things with like for me, and this kind of goes back to like my econ thing. This is like I don't want to nerd out, but like you use numbers to try to make sense of what's going on. And so like for me as like to learn basketball, it's like, hey, like I want to use numbers to help make sense of what's going on. And so it's been a neat way to like help me learn more about basketball. So like as far as my basketball background, like I play pickup, those kind of things. Never played like organized basketball, but I was at Purdue, like I showed up Robbie's junior year. So like I was in the same class as like Kelsey Barlow, DJ Bird. So I got to watch like Etwan, Robbie, all those guys through my couple years there. And so that's like what makes you fall in love with basketball, dude. Like watching those guys play and just those runs that we had there. And so then that's what really got me like interested. And then just kind of continuing to follow in the coming years, is really just, yeah, where, basketball is just like, it's a fun sport. And being from Indiana, it's like, you kind of have to, right? Like I'm an outlier having not played basketball truly, but
For sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
How do you like when you're determining some of these like stats you come up with after games, like the assist streaks and performances without Edie, weird coincidences, 3-point shooting stuff? Like, is this like stuff when you're watching a game, like it just pops to you and you're like, hey, I need to come up with something for this because I've been noticing this and I need to find out why this is happening? Or is it more regimented? Like, hey, I'm going to do this week, or is it kind of spontaneous?
yeah, it is a little bit of both. Like there are sometimes you're right where like I'm watching something and like I'm like specifically I remember a game. I think it was the Michigan game in Mackey last year. I was like sitting there watching, and it was like I think it was like the very first play we turned them over, like, and then the next one, and then it was like we turned them over like I think it was like 6 of the first 9 possessions or something. And I was like, shoot, how quick have we had that many turnovers? And so like I think of those things, and that's like I go right to the notes app, add it in and like let's put this on the list. So sometimes it's like that. Again, in terms of regimented, like I'm trying to like become a little bit more like structured in terms of like rhythms of like, okay, like, yeah, like you said that thing today with the AP poll, I'm like, oh, that's a Monday thing, right? Or like I love, Premier League soccer. So I'm like, I do my Premier League, Big Ten standings on Friday or whatever. Trying to do more stuff like that. But a lot of times it is just stuff that like pops in my head. And sometimes it's something where I'll make note of it and be like, hey, this is something that's a good, like when we have, downtime between a couple games, like I'll save that for later. Sometimes it's something where I'm just like, oh, that's timely. I'm going to get that out today or something like that. It all just kind of depends.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've pulled up some like super historical data, like stuff about like 1901. Where do you find this stuff? And secondary question, should Purdue count this as a win?
So again, like first of all, to answer the second part, I'm like, it's my joke that I'm like, I want to rewrite history and get that game off the books, But it actually started with one of my summer projects I was doing was like Purdue scoregami. Like, I don't know why I think scoregami is awesome. So I'm like, okay, well, I got to get a list of every Purdue game that happened. And so I have a spreadsheet of that. And I'm actually going to one of my goals, it's a soon goal, and I'm putting this out there to keep me accountable to doing it. I want to make it accessible on my site where you can like filter through and be like, oh, let's see Purdue's all-time record against Indiana or all-time record against this school, that school, whatever. So I'm working on that. But in doing that and going back, one thing that's like game records from like the early 1900s are so sketchy. There's just random stuff out there. And so one thing that actually Purdue does an incredible job of is they archive all issues of the Exponent, like literally going back to the 1800s. Wow. Those are all aligned. And then also the Purdue yearbooks, the debris, go all the way back. And so as I was going through checking for the scoregami stuff, it was really honestly for some of the early games where I like saw some discrepancies. I was like, let me just check if like that box score is in the Exponent. And so I was just, they're pretty easy to check. You can like search by date and find it pretty easy. And that's wherever I was like going into this, and I was like, yo, this game doesn't exist. Like, and so I just started digging. Like I was like, why doesn't this game exist? And it was literally like a 2 or 3 day rabbit hole. I just like dove down. And yeah, like I actually reached out to Alan Karpick, who's he's on Golden Black. He wrote, hold on a second. So like he wrote this book like back in the 80s. Hold on. It's like Purdue basketball history. Sick. Yeah, I found it at like Half Price Books. But yeah, like there's a young Alan Karpick from Golden Black.
Wow.
But anyway, it like goes through and like chronicles like Purdue history. And one thing like he even sort of mentions in that was he's like, maybe this game happened, maybe it didn't, we don't know. And I was like, oh, I want to know. Like I'm trying to figure this out. And so yeah, like I just dove deep into it and I sent it to him. He was like, oh, that like kind of makes sense. And so yeah, I'm on this crusade to get that game off the books. Like I'm like, it didn't happen. Go. So
that's what's up. Let's go.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that story, like go to his X account because it's in like a thread basically, but it's really cool to read through it. It's awesome that you go down that kind of rabbit hole and you're like still determined to get this done.
Trying to rewrite history here,
Hey, dude, you got to make things right, or karma will get you.
What stinks is I wish it was an IU win so that we could get a win, like because it was a Purdue win, like they call it a Purdue win. So that kind of stinks. Like I don't want to get a win away from Purdue. So
yeah,
for sure.
It's a bummer.
Yeah. I wish it went the other way, but hey,
exactly.
Here we are. When you're speaking of timelines, like what is your typical timeline when you're doing a data set? Like how far back are you going? I know I've seen before 2008 is usually a number that you've mentioned. What's the biggest challenge? Say you're doing like because people cherry pick this stuff all the time, right? And they'll go, since December 7th. Well, that's right after Purdue lost to Iowa State by 27, whatever it was, points. Like how do you pick those? How do you do that kind of objectively without just completely trying to skew it all in Purdue's favor?
Well, like I'll be real, like regularly I try to skew it in Purdue's favor. Like, I'm like I said, I'm a company man at the end of the day. And so it's like, if I can make Purdue look good, I'm going to do it. No, I do try to be somewhat objective. You're right with that data. It is tough. So the NCAA, I don't know if it was like when they started mandating things or whatever. But play-by-play really only goes back to like 2008, like good play-by-play. Like you can get some before that, but it's not complete or clean. And so I have like a server that I scrape daily, play by play that like I have it all the way, like all games all the way back to like 2008, just in case I needed to dig back in there. But that's why like I think Torvik goes back to 2008 as well, because his stuff is derived from that too. And so one of the things that's cool is, it's relative. Like if you can look in the last 20 years, like the game has changed so much over time. That I feel like 20 years is a good number, to be able to get to. But you're right. There's some of those things you're like, man, I really, really wish that we could dive a little further back and like figure out, like, I wish we had play-by-play back to like Rick Mount. Like I want to see this dude's taking like 60 shots a game. Like I want to see what the play-by-play for that looks like.
It'd be cool to see like how many would have been threes.
Oh, dude, I'd love to get them shot locations and everything. Yeah, exactly.
Distance. Yeah, that would be sick. Speaking on that, like, what are you a coder?
Yeah.
Are you using your coding to
Mhm.
pull data, like R or
Yeah.
Python, or
I'm
you're using?
I'm like an R loyalist. Yeah. So,
Okay,
um,
gotcha.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So that's where, yeah, like I said, because it's big in like data science and academics, and that's where I learned it because of economics, which pulled me into that. So yeah, all
Okay,
my visualizations I make are in R.
sweet,
So yeah.
Cool.
awesome.
Like in your opinion, I guess, how has like the role of advanced stats, like you see so many now, they're everywhere, offensive ratings, points per possession. How has that changed college basketball strategy, especially for a Purdue who is always highly ranked analytically, but is always actually trying to find ways to get better at that, especially like from a defensive analytics perspective. How has that changed college basketball if you can look back to maybe before it really became so prevalent to where it is now?
Yeah, like one of the things that I think is interesting, and I can't remember when I would have put it out, but it's kind of been a conversation as of late, is that if you look at college basketball over the last like 20 years, especially, and you look at three and rim rates, like it's rising like fast, and that's because like the whole like Nate Oates type of like, okay, well, rim most efficient shot, like 3 point, shot not as like, you could say good of a shot, but it's worth more points, so yeah, it's worth it. And like you're seeing that happen, and so like you're seeing offenses change. And if you look at Ken Pom, like he bases all his stuff when he adjusts it off of like the average efficiency in college, and he has historical efficiency. And I think this year we're at like 108 points per possession, which is higher than any previous year. Like it's just rising. So you can tell teams are, I mean, it's probably more skill, but also that they're taking better shots too. So it is kind of interesting where it's like you see this strategy play out a little bit more. One of the things that I think is fascinating about Purdue is like Matt Painter's a very analytical guy, but also it's like we're taking a ton of mid-range shots.
Yeah,
And normally, like I think everything matters in context, right? Where it's like, yeah, it's an inefficient shot, but if you have dudes who can make it regularly, it's not an inefficient shot.
right.
Like Blake said, the NBA trickle down. There was a book.
This
It's
guy's
called
got
the
you
mid
got a
range
library?
theory. Yeah, I do. I have like a bunch of books on. Yeah.
Sweet.
A couple of years ago, it's called the mid range theory, and it was just kind of the idea, like the whole like Steph Curry effect and everything like that. Threes are worth more and all that kind of stuff, and kind of breaks that down a lot. But yeah, like it's, like I'm a big fan of the analytics in it, and I think I hope the NCAA only like advances in the same way the NBA has in some ways, right? Like in terms of availability of data, I guess I should say. NBA, it's like,
Yeah,
dude, they can tell you where the center of the ball crosses through the rim. Like I mean, it is so, they've got so much. I just think that's fascinating. I'm like, yeah, give me that data.
For
that,
sure.
more
Yeah.
data is more data is not always good data, but in some contexts is, it can really help out, pointing different trends out. And
Yeah.
speaking of some trends, you pointed out things like success in low foul games or free throw disparities. I would say,
Mm.
what do you think is the most underappreciated metric in evaluating a team's potential for a deep run in March?
Ooh. One thing like one thing I think I mentioned this the other day, right before things went a little south, is like we've had an incredibly not just good offense, but like consistent offense. And the one thing they always talk about is like, defense travels, offense doesn't. But I also think in some ways, like if you're creating an offense that is efficient and where it's like you're seeing some things work, if it doesn't work, we're switching to something else. Like our offensive variance was like so low. I checked the other day, and even like the Illinois game, like Bart Torvik had it as our highest adjusted offense game. So
Okay.
if you adjust for who you're playing, it was like our best, which is kind of crazy because
Can't
you're like,
disagree.
yeah, you just think about the defense and you're like, oh, we played terribly. It's like, okay, defensive sketchy, offense. Hey, things actually went really well,
Yeah.
So, I think one of those things that at least I'm kind of thinking for Purdue is offensive consistency. I think
Okay.
Painter, he talked about this a couple years ago, even like with the FDU loss and St. Peter's. He's like, we can't even score 60 points in a game. Like, what are we doing? And if you can, I think, not only have a higher baseline, but then less variance around that baseline, that's kind of where we're going in terms of our defense. Sometimes when you can't match up with the guys, you're just like, hey, let's make sure we outscore them. And if we can do that consistently, that puts us in a better boat.
For sure. So, like, this is kind of off the hip here, but like, so in these last two games where Purdue has struggled, especially pick and roll, and especially like from what seemed to be a defensive standpoint, and allowing one guy to really get going and kind of torch you in the pick and roll situation, have you noticed anything in these two games, like from a trend standpoint or just like a data standpoint? Because you're right, Purdue does tend to try to just beat people based on our offense is better than your defense. But in these last two games, that hasn't worked specifically because we've played two teams that have a pick and pop big that can really hurt you in a lot of different ways. So have you noticed anything in these two games?
I'll be honest, I haven't dove a ton into these last two games. Like I got to watch them both, obviously. And I think there's, especially you look in the last couple of years, like even the Edey years, you look at how like we're matching up to other teams in the Big Ten. Like Big Ten traditionally plays, everyone's got a back to the basket big, right? Like we're going up Illinois, like against Illinois. Usually it's like a Kofi Coburn, that we're going up against. And so what I think is just really interesting is kind of the way the Big Ten is evolving a little bit. Like I think that you see that with Brad Underwood. Like their offense is crazy. Like it just is. But it almost feels like their team, like you look out there and I think I saw like that what was it? 198 of their 200 minutes that were played by dudes like 6'6" or taller.
Right.
And it's like that's Jack Benner or taller, And so, but it's like your point guard's that way, your shooting guards are that way, and then so I think what's kind of interesting is seeing in those games just kind of like, is this a trend that's going to follow in all of college basketball, kind of like a little bit more of the NBA positionless basketball. We have, these guys who can all five dudes can shoot like really well. And, or is it like, is the Big Ten kind of traditional going to follow? I don't know. That'll be interesting to see kind of like from a macro standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's one piece of advice, you do a lot of, analysis and stuff, but what's one piece of advice that you think that you could give to coaches as far as using certain data to gain advantages that maybe they aren't using, or that you feel like, I'm sure that they have everything available? What's something that you find to be very important that maybe gets overlooked from a data standpoint?
Yeah. Like I don't know if I'd say like overlooked, but just like one thing that I think people are getting better at, like I know Evan Miyakawa does a good job with this, is like in looking at on off, or just like plus minus type stuff. Like I think that can be like, it can be helpful. There's sometimes where just like it passes the eye test, but I also think doing kind of like a relative, it's like relative plus minus, where it's like you're looking at, this player when they're on the court versus off the court, but with these four other dudes. So basically, like if you were to take, compare Clough versus Jacobson, and not just when one's on, one's off, but how about whenever they are on, but also with Braden, Fletch, TKR, CJ. Like, so it's more of like an even comparison. And I think a lot of coaches are smart enough to do that. I think there's more kind of like advanced analytics that are doing a better job at not just, just box score isolating those things, but then diving into that a little bit deeper, in terms of like, hey, let's put a little bit more context around this. Like, and obviously you need more data points, because you have to make sure you have enough possessions where you're not just like cherry picking, hey, these guys played 6 possessions together.
Right.
But I think that there's been more kind of like movement toward adjusting for who's on the court with them, than just outside of those basic box score plus minus stuff.
Yeah. Last thing, and then we'll get started on a couple IU questions, and then
Okay.
some fan questions, and kind of let you, if you have anything as well. As a diehard Purdue fan, what's your favorite moment like from Purdue basketball so far that you've crunched numbers on? Like, I know we had the 16 straight scoring possessions, senior class and how much they've won and all these other crazy stats that you've pulled. What's your favorite thing that you've pulled data on, or the one thing maybe you were looking for something and you found something else that really like kind of blew your mind?
Yeah, like it's funny because I think there's sometimes I do stuff that's like fun and it's not useful, and then sometimes there's things that are not fun and they're useful, and so I go back and forth. There was one thing last year that was fun because like it was something I had thought of. I was like, this is interesting, and it had to do with Big Ten like days rest between games. And I think we were in this like stint where and it was just like an offhand comment by someone who was like, why does it feel like everyone's coming off like 6 days rest when Purdue's playing people 2 days later? And so I was like, well, let's find out. And so I looked into that, and it was like there was this trend that it was like on average teams were getting like it was like like more than a day, I think, worth of rest than Purdue. And then I was like just sitting watching like Painter's presser, and he like called that out specifically. And I was like, oh crap. Like I was like, that was cool. Like I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I was like, it was again one of those moments where just someone in an offhand comment, he saw that, and that was just like a cool thing for me. I was like, oh okay, like I'm like, crap, Painter saw this.
You're like, Painter's reading my stuff.
Yeah, I'm like that's not a good thing. I got to tighten it up here a little bit. But yeah, like it was. I think just kind of like getting into some of those where it's something that's just kind of like off the beaten path. Like, thinking about like number of days rest versus your opponents or whatever. Yeah, that's always fun to do.
Yes, Rickus Morty, one of the big fans that comes to a lot of our stuff. He said, "Oh shit, Purdue has a game tomorrow," so we'll jump right into that, man. Like we said, if you have to jump or run,
we're good.
let us know. We're drilling you over here, and do apologize for that, but this is really cool for us. We're a couple of nerdos too. Like we love all the statistical stuff, so like this is cool. This is like our Super Bowl, but we'll jump into IU. What are some like underrated historical stats from Purdue IU that you can just pull up real quick, or maybe that you just have in your head? You don't have to dig deep or anything. Just a couple of stats that people might think is cool.
Okay, well here's what I did. I pulled a couple things, but like, can we do it as like a trivia for you guys?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
can we turn the tables?
Yeah, sure thing. Okay, let's go.
I got like 3 for you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, tomorrow is Painter's first time going up against Darian DeVries. How many different head coaches for IU has Painter coached against?
Ooh.
So so in his tenure.
God, they've had to have one at least every 4 years. He's been there 21.
Are we counting DeVries?
Yes, yeah. Counting DeVries, it'll be what number?
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got my number.
I've got my number. Say it on 3. 1, 2, 3, 7.
6.
It's 6. Yeah.
Damn it.
What's
yeah.
Davis,
yeah, you got them all?
I think so. So Davis, Sampson, Tom Crean, Archie, Woodson, DeVries.
Yeah, you even got them in order then.
Oh, ordered them up.
Like,
this guy's
like reverse
order.
So, but what was interesting, I found out, like, I didn't realize this, that Kelvin Sampson's last game at IU was against Purdue. It was like 4 days later when he got fired and Dan Dockage joined up. So we could have had 7 with Dockage in there.
Oh,
easy W right there.
Some flowers on that one.
Yeah. I was counting Dockage, obviously.
Yeah.
My dad, the big fan of Dan Dockage radio.
Okay. This was one I was looking at earlier too. So the big 3, they've played 6 games against Indiana. So Braden, Fletcher, TKR. Which of the 3 has the highest average points per game in those 6 games?
If I remember, Braden has not performed incredibly well. Trey didn't score much when Edie played. All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Fletcher.
It is, yeah, it's Fletch. So, and this is like he's because Fletcher's had like a 20. What? Let me see. A 20-point game and a 19-point game. There's only been one of his 6 games he hasn't scored double digits against IU. So it's a Fletcher get right game tomorrow is what I'm hearing, I guess.
Yeah,
We need
I hope to
We
God.
need it.
Yeah. Well, and what I learned too, so I saw this. So Indiana is the only team that all 3 players have a 20-point game against. All 3 of those
Wow.
guys.
That's
So,
Really?
sick.
Yeah.
They love the
Wow.
rivalry.
Dude, love the
That's
rivalry.
crazy when you think of like, there's been multiple games where 2 of them have scored 20 in a game, and then you know the other one must not have. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a good goal.
That
Yeah.
was fun.
Okay.
Fun segment.
All right, one more.
got
One
one
more.
One more? Let's go.
Yeah, so depending if you want to count it, I say, you know, I think it's 127 and 93 is Purdue's record against IU. 128 if you want to count the fake game or whatever. So if you look at every school in the state of Indiana, Purdue has a winning record against all of them except one. What school is it? And we're going like, listen, I have that list all the way back to like
Way back.
1897.
I have a
so-
thought. I have a thought. It's gonna be wrong, but I have a thought.
We can.
I'll let you go
try-
first because I don't think we're gonna have the same answer.
I'm gonna go Wabash.
Wow, that was literally my guess. Okay, if I can't take Wabash, which was my original guess, I'll go with Huntington. I don't even know if that's
So-
one.
Well, so Wabash is like such a great, like people don't realize Wabash in
Yeah.
like the 19 aughts was like a powerhouse.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Like,
huge.
Like, so they were good. And those were the only times we lost to Wabash though. We started beating up on them after that. So it's actually Notre Dame.
Really?
And what the worst part is we're 22 and 23 against them. And I was like, that's why they bailed on the Crossroads Classic.
Yep.
Right.
Like that's why. They just wanted to get out of that and keep that winning record. So we got to figure out a way to get Shrews.
I bet Shrews is pushing that to recruits.
I hope. Oh, I hope so. I hope
We got
so.
a winning record against Purdue. Who else has that?
Yeah.
Yeah, recruits like you mean his kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
All 3 of them.
Is that and Purdue does still have a winning record against all Big Ten teams? Is that still correct?
If I remember right, like wasn't it like Ohio State that are they the one?
I know. Yeah, there was one that was really close.
Ohio State, we were like on the border, and then we've had these like bad luck games versus Diebler here lately.
Diebler's got us.
Painter hates Diebler.
Painter got Diebler's
Dude, I don't know
job.
what it is.
Yeah.
Let me see if I got this. I'm trying to do this on the fly. So
We like it. We appreciate it.
I know I'm like no promises here though. Like, let's see.
That's okay.
Uh-oh. So we've played them 188 times. I think that sounds right. I got us at 94 and 94.
I knew it was close. That might be correct.
Maybe that's right in there. I'll have to double check. I think this is right. But yeah, so like, but I remember hearing that about how now it depends too if you want to count these new teams because like UCLA we don't, and it's like pretty
Right.
bad. It's like we're like 3-9 or something against them.
Yeah, but Wooden is ours. So
True. So we get to count those wins and the national titles.
yes,
Right.
we have 10 natties
Bingo.
actually.
Bingo.
Exactly.
Okay, so statistically, if you have this, if you don't have any of these, just tell us. But like, what are the best areas that are going to favor Purdue in this upcoming game against IU? Like, if you look at like specifically from an analytical standpoint, like how big of a difference does like home away splits make in these games, especially in rivalry games compared to just your typical, Purdue versus Marquette? Like, what kind of difference does that make? Do you have any data on that?
I haven't pulled it lately, truthfully, but like one of the things, this is like just me speaking as a fan. It's like, does IU care about basketball right now? Like, are they going to fill Assembly Hall? Like, I'm not even sure. But now
Tickets are stupid cheap right now.
Here's my fear is that they're walking Signetti out there at halftime with that
Yeah, it's already
trophy.
announced.
Oh, for
Oh,
sure.
did they really?
Yeah, they announced they're doing a trophy presentation
Oh, dang it.
at halftime.
Yeah, that was my fear.
Bombs.
Yeah, but no, like I think one thing that we've seen, like Purdue, I think has lost 3 of the last 4 in Bloomington. But then we've also had those years where it's like, we had like, I think it was like 7 straight against like in Bloomington or something, or 6 or I don't know, something like that, where we just couldn't lose. And it was granted, it was like late Tom Crean and then Archie Miller. Um,
Archie.
but yeah, like you know, I think with this game, I'm really hoping it's a like a Clough Jacobson kind of game, being able to kind of like, pound the paint inside and just let them get theirs too. I do think that's going to be I'm optimistic for that. The one thing that'll be interesting again is like IU is up there. I haven't checked on KenPom, but they're like one of the highest 3-point rate teams in the country, which is like, that is not the IU of the last however many years. And so that's just like something it doesn't feel right. Like I love, like I remember the last couple of years, I love when IU would take threes because I'm like, sweet, it's not going in. And now I'm starting, like, with Wilkerson and stuff, and I know DeVries he's cooled off a little bit. But I think that like you just can't let those guys get going. And I think my thought here is, again, I'm not as big of an X and O's guy, but it's like I really think as long as I don't think it'll be as tough of a matchup in terms of defending the three as it was with like what we were dealing with Wagler, or those pick and pops and stuff, especially with like Bilodeau and UCLA and things like that. And so I feel a little bit better there. I truly haven't watched a ton of IU this year though. Like I said, I actively root against every other team, and so I only watch them when I hate watch.
One of my favorite things to do.
Same.
Yeah,
Same.
right. So
that's us too. I did have a question, like, how do you factor in anomaly games like the 48-46 game, like, into the rivalry trends? Do you throw out that data, or one-off games where the deficits are crazy, or is there like a difference in how you would analyze those games?
yeah, it's hard because you're like, at the end of the day, like, it is a data point, and you just can't ignore the ones that aren't fun, and those aren't fun. But at the same time, it's like, you look at like one good, like, for example, like with Purdue, like there was a while there, I think post Iowa State, whereas I think there was like 2 or 3 games in a row where we had really good defensive games, and like I think our KenPom defensive numbers were moving up and things like that. And I just got to the point where I was like, I'm starting to believe, like, I'm not there yet. Like, cause like you can have, just cause you have one good defensive game, like, is it cause you had a good defense, or that their shooting was just terrible that night? And it's like, hey, how do we get more of these data points? So again, you can look at those and be like, hey, yeah, we have to look at it. We have to recognize it happened. But like, yeah, one isn't a trend. But again, like we were saying with these last 2, where, UCLA, you can like chalk it up like, oh, bad game. And then kind of some of that same stuff happens with, Illinois. And it's like, I'm not hitting the panic button, but like my hand is hovering over the, like, should I be concerned button.
Yep.
And I think that was kind of one of those things where, 1 point is a dot, 2 points is a line. And so it's like, we got to kind of start looking at that.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes I like to throw up Rick's comments if they are at least a little funny, but most of them are just stupid. Yeah, Indiana, you kind of just hit on this a little bit, like with these back-to-back games and where the panic button or whatever is. But Indiana has 3 lights-out shooters, Dorn, DeVries, Wilkerson, that you just mentioned. Like, after the recent 2 games of struggling defending the 3, specifically in situations involving a pick and roll, like, what adjustments are you looking for in this game from Purdue to contain IU's perimeter defense? I know it's slightly different than, for instance, Wagler going for 46, but we all know Wilkerson's capable too. He put up 42 in a 21-minute performance earlier this year. What do you think Purdue can do defensively from a standpoint of just maybe not letting a team just, hey, if you make them, you make them, type of situation?
And that's one of those things. Like, I think there are sometimes where it's like kind of like that UConn approach that Purdue played against, or that UConn played against Purdue, where it's like, let Edey get his and then force everyone else to do something. Now, obviously, that's different because Edey is such an outlier relative to everyone else. But I think kind of one of the good things with us seeing this the last 2 games is like the warning bells were maybe starting to go off, where it's like, oh, hey, like, we do need to pay attention to this. So it's like better prepare for like, okay, well, we know there's a guy who is capable of putting up for. Not that they weren't aware of Wagler, but it's like, hey, like there might have been some of our defensive inefficiencies or our, just kind of like some of our scheme that wasn't working the way we wanted it to. I think maybe like, yeah, I think just kind of like, I assume they'll probably, I don't think they'll switch all 5 ways. I hope not. I don't know. I think that they'll probably like, we'll see. Like I get why we did that against Illinois, but it's just like, still like, man, they just ate it up. But yeah, like I think just like really getting like trying to get it up in on those guys on the perimeter, try to contain a little bit more in that way. Yeah, like I said, I think the fact that the warning bells went off the last 2 games is probably a best case scenario for preventing that in a game like this. So
Yeah, we're at the end of January, so plenty of time to fix silly things like that. And maybe I'm worried sometimes that the blueprint is out and then you have to make major adjustments because everyone's watching loads of film now and, like way ahead on Purdue and things. I guess what are some like key stats that fans should look for during games, like to tell which way it's going? Is like scoring runs, or is there different efficiencies that people could pay attention to during games to kind of see where the trend's going?
one thing I always like, I pay attention to because Painter said they pay attention to it is he calls them kills, which is like when they get 3 consecutive stops. So it's just like they don't score because like, you think about that, 3 consecutive stops, say you get, that's 4 possessions or 3 possessions on our side. Even if you score on 2 of those possessions, that's like still just even a little bit of a bump. Yeah, I know like Evan, does his runs. Like that's always such a fun thing. Like I love tracking those because I think we've had like 3 20+ runs or something this season, which is wild. Like you think back to Texas Tech and just how fun that was. Like those kind of things. One thing I try to pay attention to like when I'm watching is those stops, because it's like, okay, that means that we're like, yeah, maybe they're not shooting well, but hey, we're defending well, we're getting rebounds, those types of things, or those turnovers. The one other thing that I always watch pretty closely is sorry, I was reading a comment. One thing I watch is the turnover battle. Like, and that was the one thing I kept looking up at the scoreboard and just being like, we still only have 2 turnovers. Like, and that was just crazy to me that whole game. Like, I think I looked up at one point, it was like 10-2 turnovers, which I'm like, thankfully that's keeping us in it relative to the offensive rebounds. But I was like, dang, I think, Ken Pom tracks historical performances. And I think that game was one of our top 10 all time, like in Ken Pom history of like, lowest turnover rates. I think it was like 4.7 or something like that. And so it's like, you see that and you're like, dang, that should keep us in it. But that's one thing I always look for, just because we're such an efficient offense that if you can just not turn the ball over, good things are going to happen.
Yeah, I saw that graphic you put out too about rebounding and turnovers in that 4 boxes. And Purdue was like 153-20 when they win both of those margins. So incredible there. I was going to bring up something about who might have a big game. I think we kind of answered that in Fletcher, based on historical data at IU. And then an underrated stat, which you kind of mentioned, that could swing this game would be like the kill. So I'm going to jump to this question by Jason Depew, which I think you were just reading. He said he's not a huge analytics guy, but he does like plus minus. And this is always a topic of like contention with everyone. Like, how much does the plus minus really matter in a game-to-game basis? Or is it something where like, you've seen it graphics and you might have put one out where it shows Fletcher as like our highest plus minus guy all year. Yeah, everybody complains about Fletcher all the time when he doesn't have shots go down. Because if you look at those small sample sets, you can be misled. If you look at Fletcher's career, you understand that you want him taking those shots. So what's your opinion on plus minus? Is it something you kind of ignore game to game, or are there ways to analyze it in a game to game situation?
I think it's kind of like we were talking about a little bit earlier, is that, if you have context around it, like if you're watching the game and then you check the plus minus and you're looking at the eye test. But the one thing, like I said, like think back to like 2024, like you could put me in the corner with Edie, Smith, and Lawyer. My plus minus would be awesome, right? But doesn't mean I'm doing anything. So it is one of those things you do have to take it with a grain of salt. Now at the same time, like it is telling you something. Like, hey, in some ways you're like, hey, we scored more points when that person was on the court than when they were off, type of thing.
Right.
So I think context matters. And that's why, as we were referring to earlier, like that relative plus minus, that's providing more context to it, which helps where it's like, hey, well, now we're looking at it when they're on the court with the same 4 other dudes. So that helps factor in for, what's going on there. So again, I think it's one of those things that, I'm not like anti plus minus. Like, I think it's, again, sometimes you look at it and you're like, yeah, that helps, like, to look at. Sometimes you look at it and it doesn't pass the eye test, or is just like, yeah. So
Yep.
We've seen quite a few of those this year where it's like, I don't know. Guy's
Yeah.
plus 14, and you're like, I don't know that he was plus 14, but analytically he is. This is my last question for you before we jump to QA. We're going on an hour, and we've been, just throwing the whole farm at you today. So we appreciate you, man, coming on and
no doubt.
grinding one out with us. If you could pull up one custom stat or a crazy visual for the IU Purdue matchup, what would it be, and why would the people love it?
I mean, one that always just gets the people going is the all-time record against each other.
All right.
I mean, like I think, I can't remember when it was. There was, I think it was a long time ago, where there was at one point, because it was pre-Woodson, where if you like went back and looked, like Purdue is like in the last X number of games, it was like you had to go back to like 1930s before you could say Indiana had a winning record against Purdue. Like, it was something wild like that. And I think it sucked because once Woodson had our number there for a minute, it was like, well, if you went in the last like 3 games, they were over 500. But it was like, yeah, like consistently you just went back, and it was just, I mean, that one always gets, like, I love it too. Like, it's a rivalry. Like, I don't hate IU. I just love it. I love hating on IU for the sake of the rivalry,
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah, I don't hate them. If their school disappeared completely, I wouldn't be mad whatsoever.
Yeah, right.
Other than we'd have to find a new rival, but we could do that. I have 2 kind of non-IU related questions.
Yeah.
Purdue is notoriously, and I think you put something out as a graphic about quarterly, like how we've done in each quarter of a game. If you look at that statistic, I always say we're like, we got the middle part figured out, but we seem to not do as well starting games off, and we're not ending games very well. Do you see any sort of data or anything, even your eye test, that tells you why maybe that is? With such an experienced team, you'd think we would start and end well. In the middle might be where it could get fuzzy, but it's actually the opposite. So I'm just trying to personally get a grasp on why that might be.
Yeah, I was like, I even did it. I think I just threw it on Gold and Black at one point, because I kind of looked at that in a different way at one point too, where it was like, if you looked at like the first 30 minutes of a game versus like our last 10, it was something like, if you continued at the pace from the first 30 minutes, we're like just blowing teams out of the water. And then like the last 10, if you like extrapolated that onto a 40-minute game, we're like losing most of our games. And it's, I think where it really came to light for me too was in the, I think it was like Washington game, where we have this big lead, and then it slowly gets into like uncomfortable range. Like, it was never like, we're going to lose this game, but you were like starting to sit up a little bit straighter,
Oh, yeah, we were there.
Yeah.
We were there.
Jeez. And so, yeah, so it's like, it's ones like that where, I don't know if it's just something like there's elements in there of, garbage time walk-ons, come in the game, and, the other teams are leaving in their best players. Like, I think Minnesota, had their starters in until the final buzzer when we have our walk-ons in, or something like that. I know Cade Tyson was in a long time, so there's things like that play in. But then there was other games where it was just like, are we just maybe like, I don't want to say not bored, but it's like when you kind of feel like you have it in the bag and you're like, okay, we can coast a little bit. And in some ways you can't blame them. It's like, hey, like we did the work to get to where we're at now.
Right.
But at the same time, you're like, hey, I think one people's complaint is that like Purdue never just steps on the throat for the sake of metrics, which like Painter isn't that kind of guy. And like, I love that he isn't. He's not just going to beat up on teams just for the sake of beating up on them. but yeah, like I think you were talking about at least the start of games. I don't know. Like I just you never really see anything either that makes you
Right.
be like red flag, like what's going on. Like they always seem to come out with energy. Like I don't know if it's just that other teams are so fired up too that it's just kind of like, hey, we stay step and step for a little bit, and then just water kind of starts to find its level type of thing. At least that's sort of how it feels.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'd be like
we've
racing
said that.
Oh, go ahead. I was just gonna say it's like racing a 10-year-old. They might beat you off the jump, but they're probably gonna run out of stamina pretty quickly there.
Yeah, we've talked about that in a few episodes. It's like, as fans, we're like, kill them, like
Hmm.
40 points every game, but that's not realistic. It's hard to not be that way though. Like when we're watching games, I'm like, we'll let a team get six, maybe 6 to 8 points, and then we do shut the door. But it's like, man, it just, I guess it's for me, it's like trauma from the past of like
Yeah.
things that have happened to us. I know that you know about those things. We're right around the same age, so we've been through a lot of the same things. Rickus Morty, do you have any more, Derek? Any more questions you want to
I
throw?
had one more
Throw it up, man.
overarching question. A lot of people say like this is Painter's and Purdue's golden era here. Like, do you agree with that? Because I look back through Painter's tenure, and he's had some low points, but he's also had 3 4 year stretches similar to this, where the teams won the Big Ten, multiple Sweet 16s. Obviously some injuries with the Robbie Hummel and the Isaac Haas situations. But do you believe that this is the golden era of Purdue? Does the data say that? With this being an elite stretch, or is this just a 4 year sample size, and he's had other ones of these throughout his career as well?
Yeah, like I mean, especially like speaking as a fan, like going back, like I remember like oh geez, like the 2013-14, like Painters going to Mizzou, like we're bottom of the Big Ten, like all this kind of stuff. Um, Gosh, dude, that was terrifying. I think back to that, and I'm like, I can't believe I, you know, made it through that. And I think as an old person, I joke with like the younger fans. I'm like, you guys don't know what it's like. Um, but you're right. Like though, once you kind of start to see you start to see once we get into like those that class with like Rafael Davis and stuff like that, where we start to see a little bit more of that consistency. And I think some of the kind of like you talk about like the golden era from that is overshadowed by some of the losses. Like I think it was what was it 20 like 14 15 like the Cincinnati loss, the 8-9 one, like even that one, and then just like the Isaac Haas injury, and then obviously 2019, just like kind of all those where it almost felt like there were just some things that overshadowed like of oh dang, this was actually an incredible season.
Right.
Right.
And I think like when I look though, like in terms of like you think about like the culture and the health of Purdue as a program, you look now and I think one of the things that makes you say we're in the golden era is it just feels like that Painter is never like, hey, we're in a rebuild. Um,
Right.
like it feels like even I'm already excited for next year, like just because I'm
Oh
like
yeah.
I don't know what's gonna happen. Even last year, things got like a little scary for a little bit, but at the same time, like dude, we were step in step with Houston for that whole game. Like I still think we should have won. Like I have strong feelings about that, no
Yeah.
call.
Yeah.
And then then
For sure.
Tennessee put up a stinker against Houston, so it's like were we that close to another Final Four in what like people thought was a rebuild year? And so you just start to see more of like the consistency. I think there's I know I put it out at one point and it's been talked about is like our NCAA tournament streak. Shout out the year the tournament was canceled for saving
Yeah.
that.
Shout out Kobe.
Uh, but uh, but then also like we have this crazy streak of like top four seeds, wherein I think that speaks to the consistency because really if you're a top four seed, essentially that's saying you're a top 15 team, top 16 team. And like to be able to do that for so many consecutive years, like that's saying something. And so I think whenever we look at that, and especially when we look back, I think it's one of those. I wish we knew we were in the good old days when we were there. I think people look back at this time as one of those for sure.
Good
Yeah.
deal.
That's Saluki, one of our fans, said no seniors next year. We're gonna be young and tough next year.
Mm-hmm.
We we've been following Ertl quite a bit, and we're pretty excited on that. Kind of an off the wall question from one of our favorites, Rickus Morty. Um, what are your thoughts on Game of Thrones season 8?
I've never done Game of Thrones. I'm sorry.
Never, never done it.
Mm-mm.
Mm.
It's worth a watch, man.
Okay,
Great
I
What
show.
about
I do hear that. I do hear that, and so maybe I'll have to. I might just have to start getting to work on it. Isn't how many seasons are there?
There's a
Oh,
I'm not a big show guy,
I'm not
but it
either.
is one like I couldn't. I would stay up till 2 in the morning, and I got to be up at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning most days. So
Ugh.
not my best string of decisions, but it was worth a watch.
Y'all
So
might talk me into it.
Connor also asked your thoughts on switching. Obviously, that's been a big point of contention for Purdue here. What are your thoughts on this? Getting Clough out there and TKR out there and getting him away from the boards.
Yeah, that's like I know that's one of those hard things. Just with like, I truly like, I don't know, because you think about, yeah, that was one of those, man. So like, because if it's like you don't switch, say you like, say you hedge and you run into the same problem with like the pick and pop from you say like they get big guys who can shoot, they got guys that can shoot everywhere. Or you get stuck into rotations, or like, or we play drop and then Wagler just comes off that screen and just pull up three, like that was what was terrifying, is you're like, dang it, switching was it seemed like the best thing, and they had answers to it. And that's what's so, because you're right, like you don't want to leave your five on an island away from the rim too when they're putting up 38 threes. And I like, it's easy to criticize, Purdue, but I'm also like, first of all, like Illinois is a really good offense. And at the
yeah,
same time, it's just like sometimes you just got to tip your cap. Like, I don't think any Purdue fan wants to be like, wow, Illinois, you had a great game plan against us. But it's like, yeah, you did. Like, and
yeah,
it's sometimes you just gotta tip your cap. As hard as
Yeah.
that is to a team like Illinois, you're like, yeah,
Sometimes star is star.
amen. It was a great offensive performance for them.
mm-hmm.
Oh, we had an earlier question. Can you explain statistically why TKR has been terrible?
Well, I think specifically, this might be a little tongue in cheek here, but
Yeah,
I think specifically, like if you've noticed, like his percentage difference, like shooting these floaters, it just feels like they're farther out and they're less efficient than they've ever been. Is there anything that points to that?
Yeah, like I think there was like he's in a little bit just like of a slump. But again, like we were talking about with the mid range shots earlier, like he's proven that he can make them though. Like it's the same way with Fletch and his 3 pointers. Like I think Fletch shot like 46% in Big Ten play or something like last year. It's like he's proven he can make them. And it's like shooters do go through slumps. Like I kind of doesn't matter where you're shooting, like unless it's layups or dunks.
Right.
And so you just kind of have to believe that. I also think one of the things that is like been interesting about TKR this year is like we're so used to team leading scorer TKR from last year, and it's just like his role is changing. He's the kind of dude that's cool with that. Like he's like, I'm gonna do what helps. He's getting aggressive rebounding. Like I remember him coming off that injury, and we saw like 2 games from him. We're like, this is a changed man.
yeah,
And which was so awesome to see. And so I think one of those things is just his role, where it's like I think when he's taking fewer shots, I think sometimes misses are louder, just because it's like those are the ones you remember.
yep,
It's not like he's putting up like an insane number of shots where a couple misses you kind of forget about it.
Right.
But no, I believe in TKR. Like he's had 3 years of proving that he can do that. So
I did notice, like statistically, real quick, that his statistics when he was playing with another big, when he was playing with 80, are drastically different from last year when he had like a first that might be out along the arc. So
hmm
that's something I've picked up on. Not really a question surrounding it, just I've noticed that statistically his freshman and sophomore years were not quite as high, and then his junior year was go crazy day for TKR. So I think it is just a different role for him, and I think he's coming back. So
Yeah, and that's what I think. Kind of like you saying that, like just kind of again the eye test. You're like, well, it makes sense that when he's got space to work, like he loves backing guys down, and then doing his little, just turn over, turn the shoulder and just up and over. And so you're right. When you have a five who is a more traditional big, who's maybe taking up a little bit more space closer to the lane, you can understand why he's taking these shots a little further out. So that makes sense.
It also appears he's getting doubled way faster and way more
Mm-hmm.
than he ever has before. And he's kind of mentioned that in some pressers. Like, it's just different. When you're getting doubled immediately, you've got to make quicker decisions or you're
Mm-hmm.
going to get trapped and you're going to turn the ball over. Olive D. Jazzer said, is there any sort of stat on, because this does feel like a Purdue mindset. Like somebody always goes off against us that shouldn't. A guy that's made 3 threes on the year, like Iowa game.
Purdue
You guys had
effect.
11 combined threes. They make 7 against us. Is this a real thing, or is this just a perception we have as Purdue fans?
Oh, and that's that. Like, yeah, like I mean, I think about those games that keep me up at night. Like the Jalen Hood Shafino from a couple years ago in Mackey. Like,
35.
dang, like that one was rough.
That hurt.
I feel like there was one against. I might be. I was trying to think there. I felt like there was one against IU back in like 2018 or 17, like where they had. It was when they were really good. I think they beat us by like 30, and I can't remember if it was Zeller or someone had whatever. It's just like those games where it just like it absolutely, yeah, keeps you up at night. And you're right, it does. I kind of think that there's like some survivorship bias with those where it's like, oh yeah, like that stands out. And so obviously now like Wagler, yes, like that's a once in a lifetime performance. But for every time we have a dude who has an incredible game, that's some team saying the same thing for them. It's like, wow, why do we have these guys going off against us? Now, I do think that there's like an element of, you think back to like that Iowa game where you're right. They're like, oh, these dudes took 7 shots all year and they just went 7 for 7 from 3. I mean, I know that a lot of teams are this way, but Purdue very much is like, hey, leave that guy. Like if like if we can tempt a non-shooter to shoot, let them do it, and you hope that they get in their own head and whatever. And sometimes they just go 7 for 7, I guess. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Rickus wants to know what your thought on trickle down economics is. You can
uh,
do that if you want.
I mean, well, it's funny because I come from an economics background, but it's like I don't know. It's like I don't like enjoy economics. Like I'm not reading the Wall Street Journal type thing. Like I like the theories and stuff. Like I think I kind of like the helping make sense of the world through data. Like it's kind of one of those ways. Um, but yeah, some things work on paper. So kind of like basketball, right? Some things work on paper. Put them into practice. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure.
Rickus has some of the greatest questions.
Yeah, look,
So
look,
I
I'll
don't
throw you
know how
another
much,
one from him. What's one
how
piece of
much
advice
you've
you'd
interacted.
give Derek to convince his people that his family is real? That's just a running joke from Rickus. He says my family doesn't exist. What's your Blake Whitmer asked? That's that's not the comment I meant to pull up. What's the Blake Whitmer asked? What's your go-to game day beer at Mackey?
Okay, so I don't know. Well, I don't know if I should admit this. Well, because for a while, like what we would do is, I would just stop at the Village Bottle Shop and tuck a tall boy in the back of your pants, and like you can't go wrong with the Gene Katie play hard.
Play hard.
Yeah. So yeah, it just feels right. Like it tastes a little better in Mackey, I think.
Oh yeah,
That's
Um,
facts.
it just does. But I do appreciate they have Blue Moon typically there. I'm Blue Moon guy.
Hey, nice wheat beer. It's good stuff.
Hmm.
I'm drinking bubbly actually, Rickus Morty.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm a bubbly guy. So, you want to
people would
wrap
not
it up there?
people would not say that you're a bubbly guy. Um, let's. I'm just checking here. Do you have anything that you prepared or that you want to bring up or anything like that we haven't already hit on?
I don't think anything specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, like I appreciate you guys and your always your support. Like I said, I just like truly like I just do this stuff for fun. I do it to entertain Purdue fans, give Purdue fans something to chew on or look at and see. And so it always makes me happy to know that people actually do consume the content, because like I said, it's just like, yeah, I just do it for kicks and gigs, and yeah, it's a blast. Like I said, there's the Purdue fans are awesome. They're a fun bunch, ones who actually appreciate that kind of stuff, and it's a good time for, I mean, just Purdue basketball in general, and so it makes I'm not trying to force content out of a 3-14 team and talk about how good they are, so it helps.
Rickus, what's your go-to game day strain? Rickus is a wild fella. My last question for you is pretty simple. Who's your favorite senior on this team, and then who's your favorite player for next year's team that you're like excited to watch play? Maybe it's a Benter in his second year, or Omer, or one of these new guys that we have coming, or Antoine West who's redshirting. We have a lot of options. This senior class is obviously special, and it's easy to say Braden, but who's your favorite, Purdue player currently, and then who's your favorite that you're looking forward to watching next year grow?
I mean, if I can only pick from the seniors, I think I mean, Braden Smith is great. Like I do remember, like, it felt like there was a time where Purdue was just known for being like a big university, and like point guard, it was like, oh, we'll have someone who just will kind of help. And like, so for Purdue to have to be able to have 4 years of watching a point guard that performs like that, like, again, it's one of those things where I'm like, I think we're going to realize like how crazy that is. But then we're getting, these guys coming in like Ertl and stuff, where you're like, well, maybe we'll have that. I don't know if Blake's still in here, but Blake can testify. I am like the biggest Jack Benter stan around. I love Jack Benter. Like so I watched him play in high school once. I live in the Indy area, and he was playing at Carmel, and the dude was just like, he was like running the point, and then like running the point into like backing dudes down in the post, like just like some sort of like, I don't know, just point forward type. Like, it was incredible. And he was just bodying dudes. And I was like, I cannot wait for this guy to be at Purdue. So yeah, I can't wait for the Jack Benter breakout. And like I said, like Blake knows, like I think it was like last year, I was like, Jack Benter will start next year. I'm like, I'm so ready for it. So yeah, I've been a big Benter believer. So yeah, I'm fired up to watch him. So
yeah, we call him click clack step back Jack. He's the absolute man. Do you know? So you know Blake?
There's like Blake and I are like in a Purdue like random like Discord, which is some random people. That it's just basically me just saying how much I love Jack Benter. But
wait, are you in the Sleepers Discord?
I'm not in the Sleepers one.
Oh,
no.
okay. I didn't know if that was the one you were in.
No. But yeah, like Jack is just like, dude, like I'm excited to see him in 15 minutes at the 3. Like, that's what I'm looking forward to. So he's great. Yeah, Blake. So yeah.
Yeah, he asked if your heat pump was fixed. I didn't know what the heck he was talking about.
We have I've been running on like emergency heat in my house. There's like, my heat pump went out, and it's like the worst time. It's like, it's cool. Like, my house is staying warm, just expensively warm.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Well, hey man, we really do appreciate you. And I'm sorry, my dog just knocked over something and banged into my TV and my door. But yeah, we really appreciate it, man. You're all welcome on any time. I think your insight's awesome. You're good.
Appreciate that.
You're good at this. So we really appreciate it. It means a lot.
Thanks.
We asked for 30 minutes and we took an hour and 20. It's pretty.
Dude, it's all good.
Thanks so much, Cobra.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys. Thanks a ton. Thanks for always being for always supporting what I do. Like I said, I just do it for fun, but I'm glad that you guys are getting good use out of it.
Yeah, and you can find him at Cobra Stats on X, and then CobraStatistics.com. Your site's completely free, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, completely free. He's got all kinds of interactive stuff on there that's really fun to go mess with. So please check it out. Then Blake says, "Oh, now he has a dog."
That's great. All right.
Yeah, no, appreciate you so much, man. I appreciate you hopping on, and we'll have to do this again sometime.